Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Andrews. I'm here with the National Sports Media Association, and today I'm interviewing Mr. Keels. Mr. Keels, how are you doing today?
I'm good, Alyssa. How are you?
I'm doing well. Doing well. Can we start off by just getting an introduction about you and your background a little bit?
Sure. I just finished my 26th season doing football and men's basketball for the Ohio State Radio Network for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Previous to that, worked in Cincinnati doing games for the University of Cincinnati Bearcats. Have also worked in Dayton and Detroit. Have done freelance work for Westwood One Mutual, as well as freelance work for the Cincinnati Bengals and the Cincinnati Reds.
Yep, that's great. So can you talk a little bit about how you got into play-by-play?
Well, it was something that I always wanted to do, growing up as a sports fan and not being a very good athlete. And growing up at a time when not a lot of games were on TV. So most of following your closest teams, which for me, for the Cincinnati Reds and the Cincinnati Bengals, you had to follow on radio. So listening to the announcers and the way they were able to connect you with your teams, even from many miles away, became a little bit of a hypnotic thing for me. So the goal as a youth was to be able to do the same thing for other people. And fortunately, got involved in the communications department at Xavier University, where I was a student. We had a student radio station where we did high school football games and we did Xavier's basketball games. And that kind of began the opportunity for me to put together some audition tapes to eventually get a professional play-by-play announcing job.
That's great. And how, you know, being that you've had such an amazing career so far, are there any stories, very memorable ones that you would like to talk about?
Oh, there's tons of them. Some of them that can be repeated, some that can't be repeated. Probably the biggest thing, Alyssa, is having the chance to witness great sporting events in person and to have the opportunity to try and describe them on the radio and connect fans to those sporting events, whether it was basketball teams making the Final Four, whether it was in Ohio State's case, winning a couple of college football national championship games, individual plays, individual players, great athletes, great coaches. But also, maybe one of the biggest things is some of the people that you get to meet. I'm very fortunate to have a great group of coworkers that I work with at WBNS Radio in Columbus and at the Ohio State Learfield Network. Also, the people you get to know through the Ohio State University, whether it's coaches, athletic staff members, sports information people, athletic trainers, team doctors, all of those kind of folks. So most of the stories, if I was going to single out any, they would involve all of those kind of people that you get to come across. There's too many to think of right off the top of my head. But one of the things I like to talk about is, this is a people business, it's a communication business, and one of the great things is all of the people you get to meet, which includes the other announcers of other schools, many of whom have become people that have become good friends and good acquaintances.
That's great. Great. So, this can be a very information driven industry. How do you prepare for games?
Well, fortunately, the sports information departments, both at Ohio State and for the other schools that they play, are very good about providing information, whether it's stats, whether it's biographical information. And everybody kind of goes through their own process of how to sort through that, how to organize it on your game chart to have it at your disposal. Also, a lot of it comes with watching the opponents on TV. DVR has been a great thing to be able to record upcoming opponents. The internet, where you can go and see highlights and get sections of games that you can watch by way of the internet. So that's what a lot of it is. Also, talking to some of the other broadcasters who cover those teams, trying to read as many newspaper articles as you can. Certainly, there can be too much, and it's a little different with radio as opposed to TV. We're not always looking for so many behind the scenes stories and personal life stories, but that's kind of where a lot of that information comes from.
And with you having such a strong voice, how would you say that your style differs from others?
Well, thank you for saying that. I'm one of those people that I don't really recognize what my own voice sounds like. I don't know if it's auditory or whatever. But I'm not sure. There's always been some nice comparisons and compliments that have been given to me about other announcers that maybe other people think that I sound like. But the biggest thing is just to try and be your own announcer. Let your own style develop, which of course, over the course of time, that allows for that to happen. It's harder to do when you're just getting started and you haven't done an awful lot of it. It helps listening to other people to see how other people do games, how they broadcast games and do the same thing. But it may give you some ideas. It may give you some pointers, but it's most important to kind of come up with your own style, whatever that's going to be. Most of what I and the people I work with try and do is, especially with radio, approach the most important aspects: score and time and location of the ball, down and distance in football. What side of the field are they on? How much time is left in what quarter? Basketball, the same thing. Who's got the lead? You know, not just give the score, but make sure you point out who's leading. What player plays for what team? We have a producer who passed along a great piece of advice years ago, and that's not to assume that everybody listening follows the team that you're broadcasting for all of that well. So it's important to make sure that you're pointing out who's on what team, where the ball is. You can never give the score and time too much. And somewhere in the course of everything, that has to be part of your own style.
And with sports media just in general being very digital nowadays, how do you see play-by-play in the future evolving?
I'm not sure how the digital part changes that, because the games still have to be broadcast over the air where people can get them and get them easily, whether it's their car, whether it's their phone, whether it's a laptop, but while they're mobile. There still are some folks that still have, I won't say transistor radios, but they have actual real radios that they have to plug into an outlet or operate by batteries. The digital part seemingly is more about information, about contact, about personal information about the athletes, the teams, the players, background information, things like that. Not so sure how much the digital part, maybe in television, it's more of an influence with the digital streaming networks, but for radio, for the most part, I think it's still over the air. Yes, there's still some radio internet broadcasts, and the apps kind of help with that. I'm a big fan of listening to the TuneIn app to listen to some different things. But all of everything that happens digitally with the internet, it certainly has become a part of how we have to live, how we have to work, and how we have to consume our products.
Yeah. And what advice would you give an inspiring caster, play-by-play now?
I
Or
would say, first off, when you listen to everybody tell their story, realize that everybody's story is different. Everybody's path is different. Um, you don't have to go the same way that somebody else did that you talked about. So keep that in mind. Also, that making personal contacts is a big part of this. That's the great thing about the National Sports Media Association gatherings, because it allows you to make contact not only with people you already know, but contacts with people that you haven't known and you first get to meet. Cultivating those contacts, developing associations that come naturally, but also with a mind of, could this be somebody that might be a good avenue to an opening or a possibility? So that's probably the biggest advice I get is it's a people business. So make sure you reach out and become acquainted without being too aggressive, but become acquainted with as many people as you can.
yeah. Well, once again, congratulations on your 2024
Thank
National
you.
Sports Media Association Award, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Well, thank you, Alyssa. My pleasure.
Yeah.